I have a reading for the sermon this morning. The Price of Being Americanized by Michael Novak from 1971. My grandparents, I am sure, never guessed what it cost them and their children to become Americanized. In their eyes, no doubt, almost everything was gain. From the oppression experienced by the Slovaks at the hands of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the gain was liberty. From relative poverty, opportunity. From an old world, new hope. There is a town in Pennsylvania 200 miles from where they now lie buried, called New Hope. They were injured, to be sure, by nativist American prejudices against foreigners, by a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant culture, and even by an Irish church. Any Catholic church not otherwise specified by nationality, they experienced and described as the Irish church. What price is exacted by America when into its maw accepts other cultures of the world and processes them? What do people have to lose before they can qualify as true Americans? For one thing, a lot of blue stars and silver and gold ones must hang in the windows. You proved you love America by dying for it in its wars. The Poles, Italians, Greeks, and Slavs, whose acronym Monsignor Gino Baroni has made stand for all the non-English speaking ethnic groups, pride themselves on fighting for America. When my father saw my youngest brother in officer's uniform, it was one of the proudest days of his life, even though it sickeningly meant Vietnam. I don't have other figures at hand, but when the Poles were only 4% of the population in 1917-19, they accounted for 12% of the nation's casualties in World War I. The Fighting Irish won their epithet by dying in droves in the Civil War. There is then a blood test. Die for us, and we'll give you a chance. One is also expected to give up one's native language. My parents decided never to teach us Slovak. They hoped that thereby we would gain a generation in the process of becoming full Americans. They kept up a few traditions: Christmas Eve, holy bread, candlelight, mushroom soup, fish, and poppy seed. My mother baked palaki. Pierogi, however, more or less died with my grandmother, who used to work all day making huge steaming pots of potato dumplings and prune dumplings for her grandchildren. No other food shall ever taste so sweet. My parents, so far as I know, were the first Slovaks in our town to move outside the neighborhoods traditional for our kind of people and move into the American suburbs. There were not, I recall, very many other Catholics in the rather large and good public school I attended from grades 2 until 6. I remember Mrs. S., the 5th grade teacher, spelling Pope Pius with an O in the middle, and myself in gentle, firm righteousness, even then, correcting her. What has happened to my people since they came to this land nearly a century ago? Where are they now, that fully Americanized third generation? Are we living the dream our grandparents dreamed when on creaking decks they stood silent, afraid, hopeful at the sight of the Statue of Liberty? Will we ever find secret relief, that door, that hidden entrance? Did our grandparents choose for us and our posterity what they should have chosen? Now the dice lie cold in our uncertain hand. Back when I was in elementary school, and it always surprises me how long ago that was now, I was taught that America was a great melting pot, that it would homogenize us all into Americans. By the time I was in college, I was told America wasn't a melting pot, it was a salad or gumbo. in which our various cultures would enhance each other. Whether melting pot salad or gumbo, though, it seems there's always someone who wants to exclude some others. In Steven Steinberg's 1981 book, The Ethnic Myth, Race, Ethnicity, and Class in America, he says that according to the best available estimates, 61% of the white population in the United States in 1790 were of English descent, and another 17% were Scotch or Irish. As many as 99% were Protestant. I am Pennsylvania Dutch, or more accurately, Pennsylvania German. Deutsch is German for German. My maternal grandfather's family came to this country in the 1700s from the German Palatinate. In 1751, Benjamin Franklin wrote, "Why should the Palatinate Boers be suffered to swarm into our settlements and by herding together establish their language and manners to the exclusion of ours? Why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens who will shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us instead of our Anglifying them?" Now, to be fair, I said my grandfather's family came in the 1700s. He was the first to speak English as his first language, because you didn't need to speak English in Pennsylvania. We have a primer of my great-grandfathers that has the German, the Pennsylvania Dutch, which isn't really a written language, but is more of a dialect, and English side by side. My friend Don, who comes from a large Black West Virginia family, knows what Michael Novak knows. He, and I believe all of his brothers, served in the military. Because how does a Black man get ahead in America? You sign up. While his family served in the mid to late 20th century, of the veterans who have served since September 11th of 2001, 35% are minorities. That's according to CNN. And Black veterans make up 15% of the veterans who have served since then. Being willing to die is still a route many are trying to take to the American dream. In America, our religious communities are one of the prime places where heritage is celebrated. I grew up going to Kuckendorfer's United Methodist, well, actually Evangelical United Brethren, then United Methodist Church. And I remember on Sunday nights, some of the older men would still say, "Let's sing a hymn in the Deutsch." And then off they would go in High German for a hymn. When I had my confirmation class, the minister brought out the German Bible from the church's beginning, the big pulpit Bible. The first congregations I served out of seminary were in Weatherly and Beaver Meadows, Pennsylvania, near Hazleton. And when I'd go into Hazleton to visit someone in the hospital, I noticed that there was a Catholic church in every block. I think, why is there a Roman Catholic church in every block? I thought there were supposed to be parishes. And I asked somebody this, and he said, and they explained, "Oh, well, this is the German Catholics, and these are the Italian Catholics, and these are the Irish Catholics." A few weeks ago, I went down to Tarpon Springs to play the tourist. I, of course, went to the Greek Orthodox Church. And I spoke to the custodian, who told me various ways the Greek heritage of the community was celebrated there. Growing up, one of my brother's best friend's families went to the Serbian Orthodox Church, where being Serbian was celebrated. Many years ago, at another UU congregation, I was saying something similar to this when I happened to catch the facial expression of one of the only African American people in the room, somebody who had come very recently to the congregation on an Easter Sunday, saying that her theology just was not the same as her Baptist churches, and she was looking for something different. But I looked out at her face as I was talking about various heritages and celebrating them, and I could see the theology fit, but she was missing her community. And we only kept her a little bit longer before she went back to a church where she could celebrate maybe not her theology, but her heritage. At another congregation, one of the few African American members told me he thought Unitarian Universalists should have Black congregations. UU minister Mark Morrison Reed, in his book Black Pioneers in a White Denomination, described how a number of ministers tried to start those, but they never got any support from the denomination. But you might say, but we're Universalists. We say in our name we include everyone. So how then can we also give people the opportunity to celebrate their unique traditions and heritages, as well as our universalism? Sometimes it's as simple as giving people the opportunity. When I served the UU congregation in Charleston, West Virginia, as their interim minister, I was told it was a tradition there that the tiny little Iranian community of Charleston, West Virginia, would come to the UU congregation and lead a Nowruz, Iranian New Year service, and then follow it up by bringing food, Iranian food, for everybody to share following the service. When I first came into Unitarian Universalism, I did not understand that these were traditions for people to share and not ours to appropriate. I remember doing a Diwali service with no Indians in the room and a Kwanzaa service led totally by white UUs. I know better now, but I had to learn. Of course, sometimes things do blend. I remember going to a market in DC where one of the most popular food stands was the one selling Korean tacos. On a recommendation from one of you, I recently watched the first few episodes of the TV show Grace and Frankie. Two couples split as the husbands come out as gay and say they are in love with each other and want to leave their wives. One of the sons of one of the couples asked what will happen to their Jewish Christmas Eve. I had a blended family in a past congregation who decorated their Christmas tree with images of Hindu gods and goddesses. His mother wasn't so sure about that, but no lightning struck the tree. We do sometimes find ways to honor more than one heritage at a time. Unitarian Universalism, like America, should not be a melting pot. We should not have to give up pieces of who we are to be here. I have a painting given to me by a member of a congregation I served. It's signed Lydia Chapek, but she told me that that was not her given name. Her parents had named her Ludmilla, but an elementary school teacher had said, Ludmilla, that's an ugly name, you're Lydia now. And she has been Lydia ever since. No one should get to rename you because they do not like or cannot pronounce your name. I have made assumptions about people that were wrong. I did a marriage vow renewal ceremony for a Mexican-American couple. The first time I met with them, the husband arrived at my office first because they were both coming from work. So he and I were sitting and talking, and I asked, well, when did his family come to the States? He said he was second generation. Then I said, oh, and your wife's family? With the conquistadors. As some Mexican Americans say, they didn't cross the border crossed them. I have not the slightest idea what I said anymore, but I remember my high school chemistry teacher, Mr. Levy, calling me out on something I said that he told me was anti-Semitic and hurtful. He treated me like an adult and told me, so tell me when I say something that hurts. I'm not going to learn otherwise. Our current Unitarian Universalist principles say that we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The proposed revision of our bylaws says that pluralism is one of our values, and that we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. And then the proposal has values, and then it has ways we covenant to live out those values. So it says we covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. That means that sometimes we need to call each other back into community when we do something that either purposely or inadvertently puts someone else out. Our universalism should celebrate who we each are, not amalgamize us or disappear us. And I would add that we should stand up for one another. If someone is tormenting or threatening another because of the color of their skin, the shape of their eyes, who they're dating, or because they're wearing a yarmulke, a hijab, a kafaya, or speaking sign or Spanish, Arabic, Pashtun, or Mandarin, step in, and if stepping in doesn't seem safe, then make a call. Let's do what we can to keep everyone safe. Inclusion strategist Vernee Meyer says, diversity is in being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. Let us each do what we can to make Unitarian Universalism a place where everyone gets to dance. Our closing hymn is 118 in the gray hymnal, if you need it, or the words on the screen, but I doubt if you do. It's This Little Light of Mine. I invite you to stand if you're comfortable.